Hello, everybody.
Hi.
You're all muted for the moment just so that you can hear us, and we're also on Facebook Live on a different screen. And we figured there's a much simpler way to actually make this work. Alexa, how do you make Chollent?
Sorry, I don't know how you make Chollent.
Alexa doesn't know how to make Chollent, so it'll be down to us to go ahead and do so. So actually, before we begin, let me say l'chaim, because I never get into the kitchen without a l'chaim. Before we begin, some people call it Chollent, some people call it Chollent, some people call it Chilent, and it all depends on which part of the world you actually come from. If you're from Poland, it's Chilent. If you're from Hungary, it's Chollent. If you're from America, it's Chollent. If you're from Britain, I don't know, it is whatever it is.
Let's ask.
Let's ask. Well, you know, essentially a Chollent is a stew. That's pretty much what it is. But really, what is the origin of the word? Before we even talk about who came up with the grand idea. The origin of the word Chollent, in Latin, it is suggested it is Cholentem. And that actually means that which is hot, because obviously a Chollent is hot. If it's cold, it tastes disgusting. In Old French, Chollent, which actually means to warm something up, again, has a direct correlation with Chollent. In Hebrew, there is the Hebrew word shalanu, which actually means that which is left overnight, because, as we'll come to momentarily, a Chollent is never cooked on Shabbos. You can't cook on Shabbos. It is cooking overnight. And of course, you came up with one last night in English.
Chollent.
Chollent. See that?
Can you work it out? Chollent. Chollent. If you say it enough times, the words will appear together.
Chollent. In other words, you eat it at the end of Shol. When Shol ends, you go into the Kiddush and you have Chollent. Not in Mill Hill because the FRs don't want to spend the money, but in other Shols at Cholent, you end up having a nice Chollent in your Kiddush. So hence the term Chollent. I don't know. So you have Latin, you have Old French, you have Hebrew, you have English, you have all these people who like to take credit for something that is quintessentially so Jewish. And of course there's the Sfardim. Sfardim call it chamin. Leave it to them to kind of just break ranks with the norm. Chamin is also from the word cham, which actually means heat, means warm. But that gets to the core. The origin of it is actually quite significant. What is the significance of it? Because you know, in Judaism, fundamental is the fact that you can't cook on Shabbat. But there used to be heretics. There used to be people called minim, people who were deliberately looking to distort the Torah. And therefore, as far as they're concerned, when it says you can't cook on Shabbat, as far as they were concerned, you can't have anything cooking on Shabbos, even if it was already set up to be cooked before Shabbos. So to counter that very deliberate heretical misinterpretation of the Torah, we choose to deliberately cook something, put it on the fire before Shabbos in keeping with regulations, and it cooks overnight all the way through to the next morning, and we eat it at Shabbos lunch. Very specifically to be in your face, as it were, to all those people who just chose to distort that whole concept. In fact, some people don't just start cooking their Chollent from Friday afternoon. They might start cooking their Chollent from Thursday. Some people on Wednesday. And in fact, you go to places like Williamsburg, they start on Tuesday, and it's kind of the talk of the town. Some people are so into their Chollent.
Wednesday night is like Chollent night in the restaurants.
Wednesday night is Chollent night in the restaurants.
Thursday night, Borough Park, all these. Yeah, even Stamford Hill, sure. My brother gets his little Chollent fixed already Wednesday night.
Some people, like I say, are really into Chollent. If you want to know who isn't into Chollent and who isn't into Chollent, just generally walk through Stamford Hill and look at their waistlines, and you'll pretty much figure it out. No offense to your brother, of course. The all original Chollent and the first reference to Chollent is in 1180. That's right, 1180. That's how old Chollent is. Some people have been cooking since 1180, but 1180 is the earliest reference that we actually have to Chollent. So the late part of the 12th century, which in itself is already something quite amazing. And here is, for the moment, one final fun fact, and then we'll come back to a little bit more soon. Believe it or not, there is somebody called Lenore Naxon. On April 8th, 2013, he wrote a book, My Dad, the Inventor of the Crock-Pot. His dad was the inventor of the crock-pot. Did any of you ever hear of a slow cooker before 2013? No. Maybe some other contraption, some other... He was, his dad that is, the inventor of the crock-pot. And he writes in his book that his dad got the inspiration for the idea of a slow cooker or a crock pot from the Jewish idea of Chollent. That's a fact. A fun fact, but a fact nonetheless. And of course, different people put different ingredients into Chollent. Connie's going to take over now and tell us how she makes her Chollent. But I don't know, you know, well, I just want to tell you one thing.
Sure.
Sephardim, Sephardim put rice in their Chollent. Have you ever heard of rice in the Chollent? No, Sephardim, leave it. Sephardim, rice in the Chollent, rice at a wedding, rice on Pesach, rice. Everything about them is rice, and I don't know, I just personally think it's a complete corruption of Chollent, right? But Chollent is a religion. It's a religion in and of itself. That's right. I actually insist on Chollent 52 weeks a year. Every single Shabbat, not just in the winter, but even in the summer, because that's the way I grew up. In fact, when I first got married, I turned around to you one hot July and I said, "Where's the Chollent?" And you looked at me like I was crazy. Just to be sure, for the last 30 years, you often look at me like I'm crazy for all kinds of reasons. But that was one of the first times. And
oh, dear.
it's because it's a religion. Chollent is a religion in itself. But I'm going to hand over to you now, and you can tell them all, and I'll just ably assist you in whichever way I can. So
it's before it goes completely downhill. So let's get on with it. It's true, it is a religion in 2 cloister gardens. In fact, actually, we decided after so many years maybe to stop making Chollent for a few weeks, because to be honest, my Chollent is heavy. I'm gonna be really truthful. It's a fantastic Chollent. It's really tasty. Whoever's tasted my Chollent, but it's high in cholesterol, high in fat. It's like it's a sleeping drug. I mean, afterwards you just barely can move and make your way up and have a good Shabbat shluff. It's really not healthy, but it tastes great. It tastes good. What can I tell you? So we tried for a few weeks not to make Chollent because it was heavy and we were feeling lethargic and all that. Anyway, the kids went mad. There was like
it was actually a few months because we were home alone with just our little one, and then Esty decided to come back from, I don't know, 3 years of furlough, and Mati came home, and all of a sudden, where's our Chollent? For 2 years, we decided to get healthy.
Mushigas is this, that there's no Chollent in the house, so we're back with the Chollent. Okay, so my Chollent is the easiest Chollent possible. I don't have measurements, so get your pen and paper, and it doesn't matter because you don't have to have an exact amount of anything. It's really preference, and it's a no-fail. It's a total no-fail. Okay, so...
And I'm just here to lend a hand. You see what it says? Lend a hand? Right, that's what I'm here for.
Cheryl is just
I never ever cook without my chef's hat. They let me in only when I wear my chef's hat because I don't want my beard hairs to fall into the Chollent, if you know what I mean. Okay, over to you.
Okay, so helper, can you pass me the beans? Can you pass me the beans? So here are the Chollent beans, and again, the lazy way to do it is to buy yourself a packet of Chollent mix. It's actually called Chollent mix. I'm sure everyone's seen this in the shops. So, but if you're particular about which beans you want, by all means, I'm just showing you the easiest way. Now, people soak it overnight. To be honest with you, I stopped doing that years ago. Couldn't be bothered with the faff. So someone told me, why don't you soak it for an hour? So, okay, Friday morning, soak it for an hour. Even that, I couldn't be bothered with. And really, again, makes no difference. I've soaked it here, but it doesn't, yeah. Right, so can you put it in the pot? Here's our crock pot. Oh dear. We might be here for a long time.
Voila! Chef Schochet has put the beans in the Chollent.
Right. So
cover it again?
No.
Okay.
So the beans are in the Chollent with some water, but the truth is we need more water. My crock pot, if you want to show everyone, is you can get definitely 8 to 10 portions of Chollent in this size crock pot. It's quite a large crock pot.
This is like The Price is Right. Okay.
Okay, the next thing is after the beans go in, I get a packet of lovely diced lamb. I have to say I'm quite particular to get the lamb from, I get it from Kosher Deli. This cubed lamb is just yum. There is Chollent meat. They sell Chollent meat, I'm sure you've seen, but I really like this. I think this has a special flavour. So can you rinse this off and throw it in?
Just
so
like that.
Yeah, you just rinse it off. You see, you'll be able to make Chollent now. After 30 years, you'll be able to make Chollent.
So far, you just buy everything, you know?
That's it. It's all cheap. It's all cheap. That, and I throw it in.
Say when.
I throw it in.
Oh,
Just say when. He's going to be under the tap the whole night. Right. Okay, so once that's in, I just I do put a bit more water in, so it's I do fill it up. I would say a third of the way, so it's more than covered. Everything's covered. The beans, the meat, and now. So here goes, everyone, and like I said, no measurements are involved. Okay, so salt. A sprinkle of salt, a sprinkle of black pepper, garlic powder. No. Oh, yeah, I'll give you a minute. In a minute. Garlic powder, and I also use. Where's my onion powder? Someone's taken my onion powder.
Oh, I was supposed to get you the onion powder. I thought I'm sure I put it out.
Where is it? Gone. I'm serious. Where's the onion powder?
Right there, honey, in front of your nose.
Oh yeah,
onion powder.
so true.
Tell you, what would she do without me?
Onion powder. And of course, I have got Hungarian blood in me. I cook everything with I go for the large paprika. I go through this very quickly.
I gotta say something about that. Hungarian blood in you. Her mother is Hungarian. Her mother makes a Chollent. Her mother makes what is otherwise known as a part of Chollent. There's no meat in it. There's no marrow in it. It's actually sacrilegious, to be honest with you. And we started to, I mean, my mother's Chollent, to be honest with you, I think is far better than your mother's Chollent. No disrespect intended, or actually, it's my mother-in-law, disrespect intended. But really, my mother makes a better Chollent.
Cheryl's just killing
Don't worry about Cheryl, I'm just telling you, my mother makes a better Chollent.
No, trust, no offense.
I want you to know, the way you can tell about how good a Chollent is how much heartburn it actually gives you.
Oh.
My mother's Chollent gives you heartburn for 6 days of the week, which doesn't really matter because by the time you get over it, you start the next Chollent. Over to you, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's true. This Chollent is not a healthy Chollent. So you've got all the seasoning in. Notice I haven't even bothered with an onion. Have not even bothered with an onion. But, of course, people put in, peel an onion, cut it, garlic. Can't be bothered with any of that. Oil. This is one of the secrets of a good Chollent. Good dash of oil. Now, this is what I call my layering. So it's plugged in. I haven't plugged in yet. I plug it in. I actually like the meat to stop cooking up on just for half an hour, warm it up, and then I'm ready to put in the next. Then I'm ready to actually continue. So I want to say that this is cooked for like a half an hour even. We want to put in now the potato. Oh, actually, no. Some people like barley. So again, you see, barley. Again, no measurement, just a nice sprinkle of barley.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I've been asking you for 30 years to put barley in the Chollent like my mother used to make it. Why are you putting barley in for the first time tonight?
Because I want to annoy you.
Okay. Don't get me wrong, I'm grateful. You might end up tasting like my mother's.
Right. Next, potatoes. Can you get me some potatoes?
Yeah, I'll get you some potatoes. I personally peeled by myself.
So, we peel potatoes, and Cheryl's saying no.
You don't believe me?
She's
Seriously.
saying no.
Look, see? Personally peeled by myself.
Who peeled the potatoes? No, I didn't. Not me either.
Whose hands look rough? Okay, go ahead.
Esty peeled the potatoes.
Ah.
Right, so can you put them in?
All of it?
All of it.
With the water?
With the water. So the potatoes are cooked. Okay, this is a bit big, this one. I would cut it just in cubes like this. And we put it in. And so now we've got our potatoes. We're almost there. So, you want to help me more?
I don't know. You tell me.
Bring me a measuring cup.
You never let me.
Bring me a measuring cup.
I haven't got a measuring cup, but does this help? I really haven't got a measuring cup. I know you asked me to get one. I couldn't find one. I've got this. It's a tape measure. Does it work?
No, it doesn't, but it's fine. But thank you, Yitzhak. I appreciate it. Any help is good. Okay, so Now, maybe you want to lift it up to show them, because to get an idea. So the potatoes have got, it's covered with water, but...
Now you know who does the heavy lifting in the house. That's what it looks like. Oh, God! Right?
Get the mop out.
Okay.
No, give me a towel.
Maybe
That's
I
hilarious.
shouldn't, right?
I promise you that that wasn't staged.
No.
That really wasn't staged. This is what happens if I let him in the kitchen. He doesn't cook, as you can all tell. Right, so we need to add more water to cover it. So just, yeah, fine, he's taking a pot to... Okay, that's perfect.
Is there more?
Got more, yeah. Okay, right, so this is the... this is now coming to the next part of the... Normally this takes me, I promise you, not more than 5 minutes, the whole thing, so I think you're blocking it. So, the next thing is more salt, right? Because this is like the next layer. It's basically layering. That's my chollent. I'm layering. So lots more salt, lots more pepper, lots more onion powder, lots more garlic powder. Now sometimes I put onion soup mix. I try to be healthy now all of a sudden with no MSG. But a little teaspoon of onion soup mix awesome is yum if you want. I don't bother, but it does add flavour. But you'll oh, and a bit more. So I forgot to do the paprika. Sorry. And guess what? A drop more oil.
Hungarian.
Okay, that's another splash. Right. So really that's the chollent, if you want, per se. But what really adds to the flavour and makes it a killer chollent in every sense of the word, I shouldn't say that, but whatever, it's makes it a heavy chollent, is, again, bought. This is kishka. So maybe it's what you want to explain what kishka is.
Kishka?
Yeah.
Okay, well, kishka. Kishka is wheat flour, beef fat, soya oil, carrot, celery, onions, sugar, eggs, paprika, salt, pepper, and garlic, which Mr. Greenfield in his deli decided to concoct into one big mix. However, I need to tell you something about kishka.
Oh.
First of all, a chollent without kishka is like a community without a rabbi. You can manage, but it's really not the same. I know some of you might have a difference of opinion on that, but still, that's my opinion. Be that as it may, this is what you have today for kishka, because you can no longer, to the best of my knowledge, other than probably in the back streets of New York on the black market, get real kishka. Kishka, by its very definition, is a Yiddish word which actually means intestine. I know this is going to maybe gross some of you out, but it's a fact that, as I recall it in my childhood, when you had a chollent, especially in Chollent, you always had at the kiddush real kishka. The kishka was the intestine of the actual cow, and it was still in its all original skin, and then you kind of took it out and you ate it, and it was mwah.
Right.
You can't get that today for whatever the reason, I don't know, certainly not in this country anyway, so you have to put up with this kind of mix that still has some kind of meat in it, but is, yeah.
No, so this is awesome kishka, but if you want to be there are variations in the shops, or you can make your own. My mother makes her own. My mother would never buy this, never. She's horrified. But
it doesn't have meat in it because it's a part of chollent.
Yeah, you can make it with flour, eggs, salt, oil. You know, you make a nice kishka, whatever. Anyways, I put it in, but that's not it. I haven't finished there in the cholesterol and diabetes department. We're going stronger now. We're going with marrow bones. Oh my goodness, does this give flavour to the chollent like you can't imagine? It's crazy. It's just absolutely yum. So again, kosher deli.
Wait, just before.
Go on.
I want to just, you see, the marrow bone is a bone, obviously, with the marrow inside. My kids, they just look at it and that's it. It adds a lot of flavour to the chollent. Me, I eat the marrow on Shabbos day as part of my chollent. And I want to tell you something. The Gemara, the Talmud actually says that when the temple was destroyed, the flavor of meat was taken out and put into the actual bones. By definition, Meat,
Move the so they can see the sink of it.
meat no longer tastes the same as it used to. In other words, once upon a time, meat used to be so much tastier 2,000 years ago. Today, the flavoring of meat has gone out of the meat stomach and gone into the actual bones. In the marrow bone, if you ever taste the marrow of a bone, you'll find out what meat should really taste like. It's pretty awesome, to say the least. And yeah, we put this into the chollent as well. And you'll understand it's particularly the kishka and the marrow bones, which when you finish having your chollent, is pretty much like a drug. It knocks you out. If you think the Shabbos shlof was invented simply because it's Shabbos, it's not. It was invented on the back of a chollent because after a chollent you do become comatose.
Kelly wants to know how much kishka you put in. Okay, so this is a lot of kishka. So I'm going to take it out again. There's two.
I have to read that.
There's two. There's two of these. There's two of these. They're, you know, easily you can serve. You can split, you can take one and put one in the freezer for the following week. You don't have to put all two in the chollent. So one is enough for easily 4 people because it's thick, it's big. You know, you only want a small, you don't want a lot because it's heavy. We put 2 in and we're still fighting over it. We're literally, who got the last kishka? This goes on every single week. Who we take from Sari's plate, we take from Esther's plate. I know if I put 4 in, 4 would go, but then it's already revolting. But 2 gives the right flavour with the marrow bones. And the truth is, this is the chollent. I can put my lid on, and that's it. I'm done. I'm done. My chollent is done. Occasionally, what I have done for the, and this is for the kids, and I have to say it is yum. Yitzhak thinks it's just so wrong to put this in the chollent. But I bought lamb sausages. You see how I like the lamb? I put just 2 in for the kids. Just, you know, absolutely delicious. I've tried putting in eggs. I know the Sephardim put eggs in and it turns brown. Horrible, we hate it. There's a reason why we're Ashkenazim. But that's it. This is my chollent. That's it. So if you have any questions?
Well, actually, just before we're going to unmute you all and we can take whatever questions. I want to make just 2 observations. I mean, you mentioned about the eggs. I had no idea. I read an article a while back in the LA Times when they were talking about eggs in the chollent. They go in white and ultimately they come out brown. And supposedly it doesn't add flavoring to the actual chollent, but the egg itself is supposed to taste amazing. But I don't know, we've done it a few times and
we didn't like it.
But to be honest with you, these lamb sausages, which was an idea Honey just suddenly had, I don't know, just a few weeks ago.
Yeah,
you know, in lockdown, people come up with all new kinds of innovative concepts, ideas, etc. One of which was Connie's idea of putting lamb sausages in a chollent. Yeah, okay. Anyway, I'd rather have your mother's part of chollent. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, can I just say that when we don't entertain, I mean, obviously that's so sad bringing that up, but we haven't entertained in such a long time. I don't do a starter. This is our meal. There's so much going on in this chollent: potatoes, meat, marrow, kishka. That's it. Everyone sits down, I bring the chollent to the table, and I dish it out, and we are full till here.
And before we open it up for questions, I'm going to leave you 2 final fun facts. The first is that there was a guy called Heinrich Heine, who was a German poet in the 19th century, who actually wrote a poem all about chollent, although he called it in some other different, somewhat German type of term. And he referred to it as the food of heaven. I don't even think he was necessarily Jewish, and he, in his poem, makes reference to God having instructed Moses about the making of chollent. Go figure. I'll agree with the part about the fact that it is food from heaven. The other interesting point that I wanted to share with you about chollent has completely skipped my mind right now, so we're going to just open it up and unmute you all, and by all means, ask whatever you want to ask.
Well, they're enjoying it.
Okay, you are all unmuted. Let me just turn up the volume here.
Oh, wow.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead, please, Rita.
Well, my mother was Polish, and she made dumplings. I don't make dumplings, but I make knedel.
Isn't that the same? I thought dumplings are knedler. Excuse my ignorance.
You put them in the chollent because I do.
You put knedlach in the chollent?
Yeah. So she's supposed to put dumplings in, and I don't make dumplings, I make knedler.
Do you know what? Do you know, I think dumplings is the equivalent of kishka. Yeah.
No, it's more flour. It's
Kishka is flour.
it's more different.
The kish.
Well, hold on, just 1 second. Sorry, forgive me. Can I just ask all of you that unless you're, can you all mute yourself? Can I ask you all to mute yourself? And whoever's asking a question should unmute themselves. So just if the rest of you can all mute yourself, and the rest of you, I don't know if I can do this. You all need to mute yourself so you don't cut off. Rita, if you're talking about dumplings, it doesn't actually involve matzah, like a matzah ball, but actually is wheat, flour, or whatever and stuff. I guess that's somewhat, does it involve meat?
No,
Okay.
I do it with brisket.
Okay, so yeah,
You have to put so much oil in. Because the
that's
brisket
like
is
kishka.
fat.
It's a variation of kishka.
She says no.
How big does the whiskey have to be for the person watching it?
Ha ha ha.
L'chaim.
Can I ask a question as well?
Right.
Go ahead, Chaim.
I'm going to bring that up. She's right, she's right.
I've been saying that for 5
Firstly,
minutes.
at Chollent, in the Heim, that's how I used to remember
The
the Dutch
Heim.
used love. Not very much oil was put into it, but the meat was very fatty anyway. There was no oil.
Right.
But in addition to
Schmaltz,
it, at the end of
say.
the kishke, you put all potatoes,
Right.
and then you cover, you put the lid over it upside down, and on top of the lid, upside down, you put the potatoes, and then
Right.
cover it up with a brown paper,
Yeah.
and you take it to the baker.
Right.
There's your name on it, of course.
Right.
That's why when you got the chocolate back from the baker's oven, you find that there's more potatoes and most delicious actually roast potatoes.
Right, yeah.
That's-
I read about that, actually, Chaim. I read about that, Harry. That's what they do in the Heim when they didn't. Who had an oven in their house? That was a luxury. So they brought the Chollent to the baker's oven. I read about that, and they baked the Chollent there. And then when they came home, I'm not sure how they kept it warm over Shabbos, but yeah.
But you're saying they didn't put a lot of oil in the Chollent. That's because you come from the Heim in Poland. The vibe comes from the Heim from Hungary. So, you know.
We had two young boys usually pick up the children for the bakers and have it home.
Right.
We never had
Didn't have an oven.
ovens like we have now as well. You should go with now.
No, that's right.
But children,
If any one of you wants to come around on Shabbos lunch from social distancing and taste the cholent that was made here tonight, you're cordially invited.
absolutely.
Who else? Esther, who else is asking questions?
Anybody else want to ask a question?
Oh, Scott,